My goodness gracious, this is a small one. Oh, hey guys, this is Gene Jensen. Let me show you something real quick. Teeny tiny fish, but what we're going to talk about today is how do you catch fish when they're feeding on bait that size. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how I do it. Every situation is different. I've had days where I've had thousands of bass around my boat, me and Bobby back in the day, and they were schooling everywhere on tiny little bait fish, and there wasn't anything I could throw at them where they would bite. You just have those days. I mean, I was throwing little bitty drop shot minnows about that big on a light hook, weightless, fluorocarbon line, still couldn't get them to bite. So there are days like that. But I do a 1-2 approach. I hit them with something that is similar or close to that size and clear, and then I hit them with something that's on the bottom if they're shallow. So let's go through that real quick. So usually when the bass are chasing and eating small bait fish, they're schooling, they're coming up, they're breaking the surface, you hear pop, 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 pop. And when a bass comes up schooling, it's not just one pop, it's usually several bass or one bass coming up to the surface multiple times, chasing bait fish up to the surface and feeding on them. There's one thing I found just recently, and I actually got it in a mystery tackle box, that is my go-to bait when they're schooling. See, I got some schooling about 100 yards out that way. But it's this little bitty spy bait. This is an iProp 75S. I don't know who makes it, but if you look, it's kind of clear. It's got a lot of natural colors, and it's a spy bait, and it's got a lot of spin, a lot of attractiveness to it. But I throw it at schooling fish, and it's small, so it almost matches the bait, and they absolutely hammered. I probably need to change the hooks out. These are kind of cheaper hooks, but so far so good. Is a spy bait, and the way I do it is I literally, you just saw me pick it up and it was already locked and loaded, ready to cast. I lay it on the deck, I lay the bait off to the side, and I just leave it there. That's one advantage to having a bright rod, is it's the only one on the deck that bright. I know exactly where it's at. I'm not searching for it. I'm telling you, this spy bait has worked amazing ever since I started fishing them for schooling fish. You get those fish that come up schooling, you don't quite get to them fast enough. They're under the surface, and you throw it out there and you throw through the area, and you can usually pick up one bite. But when they're schooling, man, they just absolutely annihilate it. What I've got it on is I've got a medium light action rod. This is my drop shot rod. I've got a Creed GT amazing reel. I'm not gonna say much else about it. It's just an amazing reel. 30-pound braided main line, or 20-pound main braid line. Main braid line. 20-pound braided main line, and I've got an FG knot to a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader, and so that's my setup. The reason it's a medium light is this is a light bait. You got to be able to get it to load up and cast a long ways. Braided line helps it cast a country mile, and the FG knot comes through the guides real good, because you're going to need to cast it far. They come up, you chunk it, okay? And so they come up, and it's simple. There's not much to it. Don't even let it sink. Just start reeling it back real slow. See how slow I'm reeling it? And this is really fast for spy baiting when you're doing it the actual spy bait way. I'm not too good at that right now. That's why I haven't done a video. But I dabble with it every once in a while. One day I'll do a video about spy baiting. But it's an amazing schooling fish bait. So that's one. Small bait. Another bait that would work is like a little small rooster tail, little inline spinner, something like that. All right, so if I'm shallow, 10 feet or less, I change it up. I do something totally different. I go with just a regular worm. I love a kicktail worm like this for fishing grass. When I say shallow, 10 feet or shallower, especially if there's grass or up on a point right now, this is a long point that comes way out from that point that's, what, a half a mile away. Comes all the way out, and I'm sitting on the very end of it right now. And I go big. I just go bigger and fish slower on the bottom, because if they're feeding on small bait fish, and there's not a whole lot of them in the area, they're going to feed on anything. They're in that feeding mood. So I've got a 5/16 ounce tungsten weight on here. It's a EWG. Might be too late. All right, so my setup for this is I've got a 5/16 ounce weight, and I've got a Mustad grip pin EWG hook, 3/0. This is a Strike King Rage Tail cutter worm. There's not much better. There's not a worm much better than this one, in my opinion. I absolutely love that worm. This worm for fishing grass. It's got a lot of kick to it, and just that little bitty, just that little tail kicking. I don't know what it is when they're small bait fish, but they may just think that's a bait fish, and they reach down, they grab it, and then they eat the whole thing. I don't know, but I fan cast, and I'm fishing submerged grass. I'm in 7.5 feet of water right now. I'm fishing the ditch that's right here, and I'm fishing the end of the point that's right here, and it's just, I'm not trying to look like those bait fish. I'm fishing slow. I'm fishing very, very, very slowly, and trying to pick up on those fish that aren't coming up and schooling, but they're staying down, they're located on that grass, and they're just swimming around feeding on whatever comes in front of them. So, and a lot of times, ooh, there's a bite. A lot of times you pick up bigger fish doing this. Must have been a little bluegill because it didn't feel like a bass. Another thing this bait picks up, another thing that I would throw would be a jig. A grass jig, a really small one though. I'd keep it 1/4 ounce, not even a 3/8 ounce, and just slowly bring it through the grass. But I don't know, they haven't been on a jig lately, especially here in the heat of the summer. We got 82-degree water temperature. They typically get off of the crawfish looking baits, but worms always work great, and that's why I tend to move in the summertime. Tend to move more towards worms. What I'm fishing this 5/16 ounce worm on is I've got a 7'3" medium heavy fast action rod. It's a fake chrome. Origin C reel, 8:1 gear ratio, 20-pound test fluorocarbon, and then the hook is a EWG, a Mustad EWG, the grip pin ones. A few more baits that might work when they're chasing small bait is a drop shot with a real tiny worm on there, something like a what do they call those things? A tiny fluke or a baby fluke? No, not a baby fluke, it's a tiny fluke. It's literally, I mean, tiny, tiny, tiny. I've got some of them somewhere in my house. I used to drop shot all the time when I was fishing for spotted bass. Those would work. You just kind of have to keep your eyes open for them, for things. I've heard of people throwing, crappy jigs at them and things like that, and it working. Match the size, kind of match the color, and you should be okay. Another thing to remember when you're fishing a bigger worm on the bottom when they're feeding on small bait fish, one thing I've learned over the years is you got to let them take it. Because a lot of times what they'll do is because they're feeding on small bait, they'll just grab the back end of the worm. And you just, basically when I feel a bite, I drop my rod, I give them slack line, and I count 3 or 4 seconds before I set the hook. I don't try to feel them again or anything else. I'll just drop the rod in 1, 2, 3, and then set the hook on 4. If you do that, you'll catch a lot more fish, especially in the summertime when the bait fish are really, really small. Now, if you're fishing an area, Florida, Bienville, that kind of stuff, the bait fish are already big in the summer. So it's all dependent on where you're at and what size the fish are. But in the summertime, in most of the country that have shad and have other types of bait, the majority of the bait's really, really small this time of year. All right, so before I talk to you about how I'm fishing this bait, let me talk to you about Special Ops Survivor. It's the nonprofit organization that I'm supporting. They're awesome, absolutely awesome. What they do is you got these special ops guys that go on deployment and they don't come back, and and their wife and their kids are left trying to put the pieces back together. A lot of times they have no clue where their husband, their dad went. Don't know what he was doing, don't know how he got killed, that kind of stuff. And so what Special Ops Survivor does is it helps moms, it helps the wives and the kids get back on their feet, and gives them support that they need to be able to get through what they're going through. So it's an organization that's near and dear to my heart, and I'll leave the link down in the description for you guys to go donate $5, $10. They're awesome, absolutely awesome. So anyway, back to how I'm fishing this thing. So I'm sitting in 8.5 feet of water. I've got spot lock on my trolling motor, and I'm throwing up onto this point. I got that, you know, the point that's a half a mile away. It's straight there in front of me. I'm throwing down the edges of it, letting it sink all the way to the bottom, and I'm working it really, really slowly. And I'm coming through a lot of grass, but the grass is only about this tall. And so it's not getting hung in the grass, it's kind of riding through it. And I just drag it really, really slowly. When I get it hung on a piece of grass, I shake it. I want you guys to look how slow I'm fishing this thing. I mean, and I'm not pulling the bait with the reel, I'm actually pulling it with the rod. And as I'm bringing it through the grass, I'm shaking it. A lot of times that'll bring the bait through the grass without it getting hung up, but at other times most of the time it triggers a reaction strike from those bass. Ooh, I thought I had a bite. But really, really slowly. You want to give those bass an easy meal. Now, if you do get it hung up in the grass and you feel your bait get heavier, it means you've got grass around the line, around the end of the bait. Drop your rod to a slack line and pop it twice. And a lot of times what that'll do is that'll rip that bait through that grass, and you can go back to fishing. All right, so let's see. Baits I would not use. Anything big that looks like a shad, it looks like a baitfish. I've found in my own personal experience that if you throw a larger square bill, like a 2.0, even a 1.5 is too big. You know, a 1.0 would work, and then spinner baits with bigger blades, and it's hard for me to throw a spinner bait with a small blade. I just don't feel like I just can't do it. But just think about it. You wanna make sure that you downsize or you change to something else that looks edible, and I just found that a worm works better. So experiment. That's what bass fishing's all about. All right, well that's just about, oh, wait a minute. One more thing. I found out day before yesterday that Justin Rackley, Lake Fork guy, got diagnosed with a brain tumor. Not only do my thoughts and prayers go out to him, I just want to let you guys know, keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He's going to start a GoFundMe here shortly, and he's got quite the road ahead of him. Hopefully he'll come out of the backside of it and be able to tell jokes and stories about it. But anyway, send a lot of love out to him and his wife. You guys take it easy, take care of yourselves, do what the doctor says 100%. And but like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go out and catch some fish. Have a great day. We'll see you.